If you're looking to apply for intermediate cloud engineer or DevOps roles, building simple and very common projects isn't gonna cut it for you. I'm talking about projects like building or hosting static websites on Amazon S3 or hosting a dynamic website on Amazon EC2. So these projects tell the recruiter nothing about your ability to handle real-world production environments. Recruiters don't want to know if you can follow a step-by-step tutorial. They want to know if you can solve problems, connect services, and think like an architect. So in this video, I'm giving you 5 intermediate cloud projects that go beyond the basics, not just a hello world app, but a real business scenario. Now, before we hit project number 1, there is a prerequisite. For all 5 of these projects, to make them actually impressive, you must do 2 things. You need a visual representation of how data flows through your system. This proves that you have an understanding of the big picture. Second, and this is crucial, you cannot just click around in the console to build these projects. If you build an amazing and complex system by clicking buttons in the console, it counts for very little in modern DevOps interviews. If you build it with Terraform, however, it proves and shows that you can automate and manage infrastructure reliably. Now that ground rules are established, let's look at project number 1. And this is a serverless SaaS with back-end authentication. So imagine a startup building a to-do list application where users need to sign up, log in, and save their private tasks. So you need to build the API that powers this front end. So basically, you're not just spinning up a Lambda function, you're building a secure API. So your entry point is API gateway, but before anyone could access it, they need to authenticate. So you will integrate services like AWS Cognito to handle user registrations and logins. Now your API gateway will use a Lambda authorizer to verify the user's token before it executes the business logic. And once authorized, the request goes to backend Lambda functions, which is written in Python or Node.js. And these functions will perform create, read, update, and delete operations or CRUD operations. And finally, the data is stored in a NoSQL database like DynamoDB, using, for example, single table design principles if you really want to show off. So this project proves that you understand authorization versus authentication. It also proves that you know how to handle stateless compute with Lambda and that you understand NoSQL data modeling. Now, as for the second project, this is called the resilient monolith. As you know, not everything is serverless. Many companies still run traditional servers or virtual machines. So the scenario here is a legacy WordPress site or a Java application that is currently sitting on one fragile server. So your job is to make it highly available and scalable. So basically, you're going to take that application into a standard 3-tier architecture. So first, you need a custom VPC with public and private subnets across at least 2 availability zones for high availability. Also, you won't just launch an EC2 instance and SSH in to install software. You will use tools like HashiCorp Packer to pre-bake an Amazon machine image or AMI that already has your application installed. And this is called immutable infrastructure. And then you will put these AMIs into an auto-scaling group that sits in private subnets. And after that, you will put an application load balancer in the public subnets to write traffic to your private instances. Now the app connects to a managed RDS database that is running in multi-AZ mode or multi-availability zone mode for redundancy. So in essence, this project shows that you understand fundamental networking, high availability principles, load balancing, and crucially, the concept of immutable infrastructure using Packer. Now the third project is an event-driven data processing pipeline. We can consider a company that allows users to upload CSV files containing thousands of transactions. So your system needs to take that file, validate the data, process it, and then store the results somewhere else. Basically, this project is about decoupling systems using events. Now, the trigger is an S3 bucket, and this is where the user will upload their file. But you don't want to process it immediately, because what if a 10,000 or 100,000 other users upload their files all at once? You will crash your servers. Instead, S3 sends an event notification to an SQS queue, so this acts as a buffer. And then a Lambda function pulls that queue, so now the Lambda will know when there is a new file uploaded. So now the Lambda will download that file, processes the data. For example, it could convert CSV to JSON files, then saves the validated data to a destination bucket, and finally it logs the transaction ID in DynamoDB. So in essence, event driven is a buzzword right now. It proves that you understand asynchronous systems and you know how to decouple components so that one part doesn't crash another part when there is heavy load. Now the fourth project shifts gears into DevSecOps. So this is gonna be an automated security remediation bot. For instance, we have an employee that gets frustrated with connectivity issues, so he decides to open up an EC2 security group port 22 to quad 0/0, meaning exposing it to the whole internet. Now, I don't have to tell you how dangerous this could be, so your system needs to detect this instantly and fix it automatically. So first you need observability, so you're going to rely on CloudTrail, which logs API calls and Event Bridge. So you set up an Event Bridge rule that listens specifically for the authorized security group ingress API where the CIDR IP is quad 0/0. And when that happens, Event Bridge triggers a Lambda function. Now this Lambda function does two things. First, it finds that security group and deletes the bad rule. And second, it publishes a message to an SNS topic that sends an email to the security team and to the person responsible for this incident. So this project shows that you can write automation scripts and that you are proactively thinking about security compliance. Keep in mind, this would be a huge benefit to your portfolio. Now, our final project is the most DevOps one on the list. We've got a Kubernetes deployment using GitOps principles. Imagine your team has microservices containerized using Docker. So you need a reliable way to deploy new versions of the application without manual human intervention. Remember, we're doing this the GitOps way. So first we need a containerized application with a Docker file. Now for the continuous integration part, we're gonna use GitHub Actions. So when you push your code, GitHub Actions will build your Docker container and then pushes it to a registry like Amazon ECR or Docker Hub. And for the continuous delivery part, you will set up a small Kubernetes cluster like EKS, and inside that cluster, you will install Argo CD. Now, Argo CD monitors your GitHub repository. So when GitHub Actions updates your Kubernetes manifest files with the new image tag, Argo CD sees the change and automatically syncs your cluster to match the state of Git. So the purpose of this project is to really understand Kubernetes, which is really good, but also to know GitOps and use tools like Argo CD. And this is what will separate modern DevOps engineers from the rest of the pack. Now, before you can go and build these projects, you need to remember that even if you build the most complex systems, if you don't document it, it simply does not exist. So remember to keep a README file in your GitHub repository where you could explain what the business problem was, how you solved it, and what tools you used, and of course why you chose some services or some tools over the others. Now that's it for today's video. I hope everything was clear. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe buttons. If you want to learn more about cloud and IT, feel free to check the link in the description description below, and I'll see you in the next video.